Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkhodaian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Welcome back to another episode of Couples Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean. And this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Check us out online at couplessynergy.com and be sure to subscribe to our podcast or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. And now on to Couples Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring you our experiences with working with thousands of couples for over 15 years.
You know, every day we get to hear intimate details about a couple's celebrations, disappointments, and everyday challenges. We've often wished these stories were shared because we know that we are more similar than different, and so we've created not only an avenue where you can hear about people's intimate lives, but an atmosphere where people come over to our home pub, pour a drink, and share their stories.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean.
And this is another episode of Couples Synergy. And today it is just us again, and we are continuing with the autofill Google game here.
So the question is, what should people know and do before getting married to lessen the chances of divorce?
Oh, that's a really good question.
And this, we're going to analyze the answer in that. Who is that by? What's that?
Marcus Gadold on Quora. He had an answer here.
Number 1.
Be good friends. Don't marry a stranger and hope you'll become compatible over time. Start with a solid foundation of love, shared values, common interest, and trust. He's absolutely right about that. I would hope that you are good friends before you decide that you're going to marry someone.
You know, that's an interesting thing because, I just worked with a woman who everyone in her family had arranged marriages. And of all of them, I think the ones that we talked about, her parents' siblings and her siblings, there was probably like 9 different marriages we were talking about, and one of those ended in divorce. And I think that culturally they have that expectation that they will make that work, and they figure out how to become friends.
Because it's expected.
Right.
Right.
But absolutely, I would not want to be married to someone I was not a good friend with.
No, absolutely not.
Number 2.
Don't expect your partner to change. I don't know if this is actually something that you should consider before getting married, right? But it's ongoing in the relationship. People do change, but not in predictable ways. So if your partner has a drug problem, wow, we went right there. Assume he'll always have one. Suppose you're marrying someone with a drug problem, not someone who will, with time, stop taking drugs, and ask if you can live with that. If she doesn't want children, assume she'll always not want children. If he has a temper, assume he'll always have a temper. Okay, so I see where he's going with this, is that, don't meet someone and, recognize some characteristics in them that you don't really like and just kind of sweep that under the rug and say that, well, I'll just change that person.
Or take on a fixer-upper.
Yeah, right. They got good potential, and, over time in the relationship, they'll get better at it.
I remember saying that to you, that...
I was a fixer-upper?
No, that you were the first person I dated that I just didn't want to change. There was nothing about you that I was like, oh, that has to change. And
likewise, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was seamless.
And that doesn't mean we haven't grown and we haven't changed, but there wasn't major things I wanted you to be different about, which was very unique for me because I'd always been in relationships with, like, when is this going to change? And of course it never does.
Right.
Until maybe that person goes on to another relationship. What's number 3?
Communicate consistently and communicate about everything. If you have a big secret in your life that you're not comfortable sharing with your partner, a fetish, a crime you committed, a friend you betrayed, this will likely cause problems down the road. Get it out into the open now and lay down a foundation of honesty. This one, fart in front of your husband. Tell your wife about your latest poo. All right. Well, that is definitely communicating about everything. This is a really important point I think he's making, even though the end of it is pretty funny. But if you're holding back with someone,
your poop.
If you're holding back about yourself, and about your past and just who you are as a person to your partner, the person that you just met, well then, what's the point in being in a relationship? I mean, I was working with a guy who was dating a woman for like 3 years, and he knew nothing about where she grew up and her friends and just absolutely nothing about her history, and it's amazing.
Yeah, like when we did the podcast with Aaron and Manya, and
Yes.
she learned a lot about him and he didn't feel a need to share anything about his life with her, and that must be something in his family that he had learned. I know in your culture, your dad's culture, they're very private and they don't want to talk about things.
Sure.
And we're also we're probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but we're very big proponents of knowing each other's passwords and having access to each other's social medias and emails and just being an open book.
I don't know why we would get in trouble for saying this. I mean, transparency is necessary
if you want a healthy relationship.
To build trust and to continue to build trust in a relationship.
Yeah. Anything you don't want to share with your partner, you probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. 4, value partnership. If this isn't a high value for both of you, you're in trouble. He is correct. If you have lots of deal breakers, or if whenever there's a problem you think, should I stay or should I go, that's a red flag. Your marriage will have a better chance of success if you're both committed to fixing problems and if you both think of all problems as shared problems.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree that you should have some very good deal breakers. I think that healthy couples have very high expectations for the relationship, and they're not holding one accountable and not the other, but both. And, we hear this a lot because, we work together, we live together, we're together a lot, and people are like, how could you work with your spouse? And we always have since we met at work.
Right.
We've almost always worked at the same jobs. And you're my best friend. I just like being with you. And I don't really have a good time when, not that I can't have a good time if you're not around, but it's just not as much fun. And I know that's something we value a lot. And, I think historically that's how relationships were. If you got into a wagon with your family and headed west, you didn't do much without your partner. And I think families needed to be that connected and sharing in the workload and sharing in the joy and fun of life as well. And now we have so much distraction that people think it's weird if you spend a lot of time together. But I think it's really healthy and valuing,
Absolutely. Number 5, work on projects together. Collaboration is one of the primary forms of human communication. It's a kind of social glue. Try to find hobbies you both like doing together. I think that shared interests, shared activities is important for couples, as well as having your own activities, your own hobbies, things that you do for yourself. So we are big proponents of couple time, couple quality time, right? And then also quality time for yourself.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of relationships, people are more open to, if someone's a big hockey fan, then, they take you to a hockey game and you have a great time. And then maybe a couple years down the line, you don't want to sit and watch every single hockey game. But you should find something that, and it's not just about like enjoying a sport, but creating something together. And, it's like problem solving and putting your energy into something, and that gives back in a really big way.
Number 6, play together. I don't mean chess, Monopoly, or baseball. I mean have tickle fights or chase each other around the home or roll around in the mud together. Playing around is another social glue. You need to lose all dignity around each other habitually. You need to lose all dignity around each other habitually. I don't know if I like that last statement there. I don't know what it means, actually, but I get what he's talking about as far as playing.
It seems like it should say like inhibition instead of habitually. Maybe.
But, playing together, I mean, this is like playing, intimate playing, really, is important as well. Connecting with your partner, not just emotionally, but also that physical excitement and fun. That's really important to connect that way.
Yeah, I think that especially for women really need that. It's very hard for women to shift gears and just get intimate and have sex, where I think it's a lot easier for men. And if there's not those touch points during the day of, patting someone on the butt or hugging them or goofing around, maybe de-pantsing sometimes. Some things like that where you're like, I see you, I notice you, I'm reaching out, those bid attempts kind of things. I think it makes for a greater connection and then ultimately way better sex.
Absolutely. Number 7, marry someone who has intimacy needs that match yours. Marriages can work between joined at the hip couples, and they can also work between highly independent couples. But it's hard to sustain a marriage between a clingy person and a standoffish one.
I think that's a pretty good point. We've seen couples who have completely sexless marriages, but they're friends. And they enjoy each other's company, and they've built a life together and a family together. And
it's not a need for each
either
of them.
one. Both of them are fine without it. And then, I think though, when you're talking about a long-term relationship, that sex drive changes significantly, especially after children are born and when you have little kids in the house. It changes in the opposite direction when they leave, which is we're empty nesters. It's a lot more fun now. But, those kind of things they're very difficult to navigate. They're very painful, because those are the bonding and connecting things that we do. And if you get rejected consistently or someone is not initiating and the other person's initiating all the time, I think that's a very painful way to be. And I know it's very difficult for young parents to go from changing diapers to being intimate with their partners.
I think also, with this this number 7 here, I think it also ties into communication, right? Being able to have those conversations early on about what each other's needs are and, what their ideas are about intimacy.
If you add that to the topic before about being playful, when you first started dating, you probably took an hour or two to get dressed. You probably went shopping and bought something new to wear, got your hair done, whatever. And, now, you're lucky if you have 5 minutes before you fall asleep. And so get babysitters, get a hotel room and take that time and pamper yourself. And you'll be better parents if you're a better couple.
Absolutely.
Don't put your kids so far ahead of everything else that you lose your relationship.
Number 8, have sex multiple times before you get married. Make sure you're sexually compatible. This is probably
a hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah.
It's a pretty controversial one,
Right.
I imagine.
Yeah.
All those the Catholics out there probably not have an issue with that.
I know of one couple that didn't have sex before they got married and then were unable to after they got married, which did lead to their divorce after a couple of years. But most people that I know that waited till they were married, that does not seem to be an issue. I don't know if you've have contrary indications of that.
No, but I think we also need to address the fact that that sex between a couple is an evolutionary process.
Absolutely.
Right? Just because, the way you have sex in the beginning of a relationship doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to be throughout the entire marriage. Right? It falls back on communication and connection and, really understanding each other's needs and, learning to grow with each other. And intimacy, sexual intimacy is part of that developmental process as well.
Unfortunately, I think that too many people have sex first before they have an emotional, intimate connection. And I think that it kind of starts them off on the wrong foot. And that because it's such a powerful thing. And, your brain is like on cocaine when you start having sex with someone, And so I think it kind of gets in the way. And a lot of the couples that we've interviewed, they kind of said, we waited a little bit, and let the relationship form a little bit more before we did that for the first time. And I think timing is definitely a factor. So I highly recommend getting to know someone before you do that. I don't know if I for sure wouldn't say that I would say wait till you get married, but I don't know if that's a problem, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think this is an absolute.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I mean, the last one here, number 9, I think falls right in line with the fact I don't think this is an absolute. Live together for at least a year before you get married. Make sure you're compatible roommates. I think that there is this trend right now with dating couples that they are cohabitating.
Yeah.
Right, where they live together, but there is no real commitment. There's no push or drive to get to that next level.
It's that sliding versus deciding.
Right.
Where it's like, well, my lease is up and it would be cheaper if we lived together, but it's not like I love you and I want to take that next step with you.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happens. People get engaged with no intention of setting a date for a wedding, which is a very odd thing that's new.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just like the last one, I think this is an evolutionary process within a relationship as well. Each person naturally is going to be bringing into the relationship the habits that they learned growing up in their families and maybe even a past relationship. But that doesn't mean that it is going to be, solid for the rest of their marriage. It's something that might be fluid and could change.
I actually think another part of that that's even more important is knowing yourself before you get in a relationship. You never lived on your own before I met you. And I had, and I always, wanted you to have that. It's not something you can have once you're in a relationship, right? So to really get to know yourself. And I don't know if you feel that has caused any issues for you, that you didn't have that kind of time to really get to know yourself.
I think one of the things that we made, in a priority in the relationship is that we had personal time. We had time, a way to really figure ourselves out. We've taken retreats, throughout the years. We made that a staple in the relationship, and so it allows us the room to grow personally, as well as the time to grow together. So until next time, it's Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean.
With Couples Synergy. If you have any questions for us, you can contact us on couplessynergy.com. Until next time, synergize your life, synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkhodaian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Kadkhodaian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.